You are not who you think you are. And if you give me to the end of this video, I will prove that to you. We as humans have a tendency to believe less about ourselves. Every single one of us has some part of themselves that doubts themselves, that beats himself up and questions their ability to create whatever they want to create in this life. And one core belief that every single person has is that we are not enough as we are. But let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone in your life that saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself? Maybe it was a coach, maybe it was your mom, maybe it was a sibling, it was a teacher. The answer is likely yes. It has to be yes, because there has been someone in your life that has seen something in you, good or bad, that you did not see within yourself. So the idea of yourself doesn't match up with their idea of you, but both ideas can be true. And what's important here is to believe that whatever you choose is going to determine the way that you move in life. Whatever you believe about yourself is going to determine the actions that you take, the results that you get, going right back into the beliefs that you hold about yourself. So, however, we are not taught this. So we don't think to question the ideas that we hold about ourselves. We just act as though they're true. And we just believe as though they are true. And those beliefs, again, determine our actions, and our actions determines our results, and that determines our life. And what we have to understand is that we can't just walk through life believing whatever we have believed about ourselves. Because a great example of this is people that think they're not confident. What if you, just throwing this out there, throughout your entire childhood surrounded yourself with people that made you feel small, that taught you to believe that you had to be small, that you had to put yourself in a box, that you couldn't be the most expressive version of yourself, all without questioning all of those things. And you just went through life believing that you're not a confident person, but in reality, your environment just made you feel small. That's not who you are. That's who you've been taught to become. And I'm not saying that you can just believe yourself into becoming a confident person, though I am saying that you can choose your beliefs, which you choosing your beliefs is going to determine the way that you show up in life. And you can flip the script on what you believe to be true about yourself and the way that you determine that you're going to show up in life. Growing up, I lost three of the most important men in my life. And for the longest time, I felt disconnected from everyone, especially myself. I didn't really have an idea of who I was. I lost my identity. I lost who I was taught to be. I lost who I thought I was supposed to be. And one of the most empowering things that I realized was that I didn't have someone to look up to aspire to become. I simply took what others told me and just took it as a complete fact. And that drove most of my childhood. And it wasn't until I recognized that, hey, I actually don't believe any of the things that I've been believing about myself. I don't actually believe any of it's true. I've just taken it on as fact because that's what I felt I needed to do. That's what made me feel safe. Holding on to an identity, regardless if that identity served me, made me feel better than not knowing who I was. And so I took on the belief that I was whatever everyone else told me I needed to be. And I think most people go through life doing exactly that. They go through life learning from unhealed people and take on the habits of those people, and they take on the beliefs that everyone instills within them. They take on the beliefs that society instills within them, and they become this kind of person, this version of themselves that really isn't the most empowered version of themselves that they felt they needed to be. And more than anything, it comes down to what you were taught as a child and the beliefs that you adapted and what you believed you needed to do and the person that you needed to show up as in order to be safe and feel safe. And most people go through life just playing small, being a people pleaser, holding themselves back, not becoming the confident version of themselves, not doing what they really want to do in their life because they believed growing up that that's what they needed to do in order to be accepted, in order to have a roof over their head, in order to be the person that other people wanted them to be and not the person that they really wanted to be. And what I want you to understand is that you are never who you believe yourself to be, because who you see yourself as is always limited, because you could never really see your full capabilities. You can never really see what you're really possibly capable of, because you always have to have a disempowered perspective of yourself. You have to. I mean, as humans, we have to have a disempowered perspective of ourselves, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have the drive to show up to become that empowered version of ourselves. Most people work from a place of scarcity, a place of lack. And if we had contentment and we were okay with who we were, we wouldn't have the drive in order to become a better version of ourselves. Evolutionarily, it makes sense, right? Like if we didn't have the fear that something was going to come out of the bushes, we wouldn't have the social awareness to recognize when something came out of the bushes to attack us. And so that happens in our everyday life. We need to be looking out for, what is the tribe, the society, what do they see about us? And is it true? I take it on as truth, but is it actually true? but I also need to accept it to some extent to be accepted by other people, because that tribe is so inherently important to us as humans. Evolutionarily, a lot of these things drive our decisions in life. And it's unfortunate because we don't have an ancient world anymore, but we still have ancient brains that are driving our decisions and driving what we choose to believe about ourselves. And what I need you to understand is that you are never who you see yourself as. You are never that limited version of yourself, and you are always more than you could possibly imagine about yourself. But so many people go through life just believing that they're small because they believe that they needed to be in order to be accepted through other people. But if you have people in your life that see something in you that you can't see in yourself, then there's more there, but you're just not accepting it and you're not showing up as it because you've been so ingrained to believe that you need to be this kind of person in order to be accepted by other people. And that's just not true. And so I hope this perspective shift helps you recognize that, hey, like, you're not actually who you think you are, because that version of yourself is driving the decisions that continue to create the kind of life that you've created thus far. And if you want to create a bigger life that actually allows you to step into the person that you actually are, you need to recognize that that version of yourself is withholding you from doing that, because that person that you see yourself as has created the life that you've created. And if you're not happy with the life that you've created in any facet of life, whether that's physical, it's mental, it's financial, it's spiritual, any of those things, you need to let go of who you are in order to become the person that you're actually capable of becoming. And you have to let go of the beliefs that serve you right now. Because if you took on the belief that you were a confident person, and that does serve you, that belief does serve you, and that identity would serve you, because then you would show up as a version of yourself that you want to show up as. You need to recognize that there's also some downside to that. You need to face your fears. You need to put yourself in positions to show yourself that you are a confident person. You need to keep the promises that you make to yourself. You need to do hard things. You need to put yourself in scenarios that you're not used to putting yourself in. And so psychologically, there's a real trade-off here. There's a real big understanding that you have to realize that the version of yourself right now, even though it doesn't serve you in the long run, it does give you some sort of relief. And I think that that's what most people are going through life trying to find. They don't really want a solution to their problems. They just want relief to their problems. And so you'd rather take on an identity that doesn't serve you in the long run. It doesn't actually serve the person that you want to become, but it serves that smaller version of yourself that you were taught to be. It serves that part of yourself that doesn't want to do the work, that doesn't want to do the uncomfortable thing. And you have to choose your heart at the end of the day. But what I really want you to understand is that you have that choice, because most people go through life believing that they don't have a choice to become a better version of themselves. They are just who they are. And that's just simply not true. That's just a belief that you take on because it serves the current version of yourself. It serves the smaller version of yourself, the person that plays small and doesn't live big and doesn't believe that they're capable of achieving X, Y, and Z. It's a lot easier to let yourself off the hook and believe that you're not capable, that you're stuck in who you are, that you're stuck in the life that you're supposed to be living, than to accept your greatness and accept what is actually possible if you were willing to put the work in. Because most people are living a life that is not true to who they actually are, what they're actually capable of. They're just living a life based on what other people told them they're capable of living and what they've for so long told themselves that they're capable of living. And I just want you to know that that's not who you are, but that's who you're choosing to be. And you have every single moment to choose something completely different. Take that from someone that believed themselves as not a confident person. My entire life, I took on the beliefs of what other people placed on me and what I placed on myself based on what I thought other people placed on me. Because you're really living life based on what you think other people think of you. It's not what they actually think. It's not what is actual truth, but it's your assumption of an assumption about you. And that's how most people go through life, deciding about what they choose to believe about themselves. But it's not actual truth. And so that's what you see yourself as right now, is you see yourself as a version of yourself that you think other people see you as too. But I can promise you, and you can go around and ask 10 to 15 people if they see what you see in yourself, and I can guarantee you that they're going to see completely different things. There may be some things that are similar, and they're probably the good things about you that you fail to recognize about yourself most times. But you are so much more than you could possibly imagine. And every single time that I have a client call, one-on-one call, and I speak about this, they recognize it almost instantly, but it's very hard to have compassion for yourself and accept the greatness that you have, because we are taught to push ourselves down and not step into who we actually are capable of becoming. But I hope this video and I hope this kind of perspective shift was big for you, because I need you to recognize, to create the life that you want to create in yourself, or to create for yourself, you need to understand that you are not who you see yourself as, but you are who you decide to become and show up as.